What's good, ladies and gents? Welcome to the MKO Pugilism Boxing channel, where we talk all things box. Remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, put it on also, get notified as soon as we drop any new content on the channel. Let's get into it. So right now, this particular video, just going to briefly talk about Chris Eubank Jr. As you will all know, he's coming off of a great win over Liam Beefy Smith, a guy who took him out in 4 rounds in the first fight, and Eubank Jr. very impressively turned it around, stopped Liam Smith, outclassed him and everything, and stopped him in the 10th round. So that's what he's coming off of. And recently he was in an interview with Sky Sports, and they were sort of asking him about his career, discussed his career, you know, looking after his little nephew, I believe over there in Dubai and everything. So they talked a bit about what could be next for him now that he's got this big win. He's done something that a lot of people thought he couldn't do. So what does he do next? That was sort of the subject of this. Of course, names like Conor Benn, they always have to come up because the Eubank and Benn thing. And Eubank's had some choice words to say about Conor Benn, so that had to come up. But Eubank was very, straight up about it and just said, look, before any fight between me and Conor Benn happens, before anything, Conor Benn has to make sure that he clears his name with the board. He can't have any allegations or anything sort of hanging over his head before he fights me. So he's got to be completely clear free. And if he's not, then there's no fight. So he was clear about that. And overall, it was, I would say it was a good interview. It was a good one to listen to. Shows a good side of Chris Eubank Jr. The only thing I would say I was quite disappointed as a fan watching it was with his attitude towards other middleweight champions. When the interviewer brought up names of different champions, he was basically quite dismissive, and his attitude towards the champions was just that, look, their names, basically, they're not pay-per-view names. They're not names that hold any weight. And they're names that are unknown. He said, look, I'm in the game. I'm in the boxing game. I'm a fighter. And I don't know who you're talking about. I don't know these champions. I mean, of course, apart from Charlo. But to me now, just speaking for myself, I think Charlo, even his name is kind of irrelevant in a sense because he hasn't fought in so long, and because of what happened with Canelo, he refused the Canelo shot. He said, I'm not going to take it because I'm not ready. So a guy like Charlo, you can't really include, I think, 2 years inactivity. So you can sort of dismiss him. But you have got guys in there like Lara, who you would say, okay, Lara's about 40 years old or whatever it is now. He's right for the taking. But, he's probably the most known name outside of Charlo. I think it's just Lara. He's kind of name. But Eubank Jr. was dismissive of that. He said, look, these guys, they're unknown. The public don't know these guys. I don't know these guys, and I'm in the game. And he came across as if he was just basically uninterested in fighting for these guys' belts because these guys are not marketable. They're not big names. The public don't know them. So basically, I'm not interested in these guys was how it came across, because he started talking about the business and, I'm in pay-per-view fights and I don't necessarily need a belt to fight for pay-per-view. The names of Canelo, people like that, Triple G came up, and those guys' names came up. But when he was asked about the champions, it was just like, well, they're not marketable. I'm a pay-per-view guy. I fight, people pay for my fights, and therefore I need a dance partner that's marketable, that's known, sort of thing. And it's a shame for me when watching it, because he by his attitude in that ring, you can see he's clearly a fighting man. He's got the attitude of a fighter. He never gives up. He doesn't quit. He's that sort of guy. So it's a shame when he says things, and it kind of contradicts things he said years ago, because one of the statements I remember from him was that when he would be asked in his younger days, well, who do you want? His statement was, well, I want to fight the guys with the belts. I want the guys with the belts. That's who I want. Whoever has got the belts, that's who I want to fight. And that was kind of his attitude earlier in his career. That was the words that came out of his mouth, basically. And but in terms of, I can't read his mind, obviously. I don't know exactly what he's thinking, but just in my opinion, I think his attitude, the reason he's coming across this way, is mainly, I suppose, after the loss to Smith, he really felt the wrath of the public. He really felt that, obviously he had that backlash after that loss because he talked himself up so much, and he's had that bad experience of the loss to Smith. And I think that as much as in the ring he was still able to go and do his job, but mentally he's still going to know that, wow, I lost to this guy, and the public really came after me and really sort of basically dismissed me as a boxer, and they really looked down on me from that loss. So part of it will be down to that, and it will be due to the fact that maybe in his view, he won't get much credit for winning a belt from an unknown quantity. So let's say, for instance, he fights a guy like Lara, and he beats Lara, he wins the belt. Perhaps in Chris Eubank Jr.'s eyes, he may think, well, look, the public is just going to say, well, you beat this guy that no one knows. No one knows who Lara is. No one knows who these other guys are. The other guy from Kazakhstan. So, he probably thinks even if he goes and he wins a belt off of these guys that are unknown, the public's just going to say, well, we don't know this guy. We never heard of this guy. So you've just won a belt off of some unknown guy. They're going to just dismiss his victory. I think that's part of his thought process. And also, I think another big part of his thought process, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I get that impression that since the Smith loss, and although he got it back, he'll be thinking as well that, look, if I take on an unknown guy that I don't know much of, I've never seen him fight, the public doesn't know much about this guy. If I go in there and win, I'll probably get, it's just an unknown guy, it doesn't matter. But if I go in there and lose against a guy that I don't know and the public doesn't know and he's an unknown quantity, well, that guy's going to get famous off of my name, and the public is going to ridicule me again in that bad way. So he's probably, although I wouldn't say he fears fighters, I think he'd be up for whatever, but I think he might fear the idea of, he might fear sort of losing to someone who is basically, compared to him, his name and his fame, a guy that's unknown. He might think, well, if I take that fight, I lose to an unknown guy. Although he's a world champion, the boxing fans will know the guy, who he is and whatever, but the public ain't gonna know, so they're just gonna look down on me, they're gonna ridicule me, I'm gonna get that, backlash once again, and he might be perhaps afraid of that aspect of it, just what the consequence will be if he loses, if something goes wrong in the fight. So I think that's a factor. And, at the end of the day, look, I understand this is prize fighting, and to a certain extent, 100% the boxers are putting their life on the line every time they go into that ring. So to a certain extent, boxing is about making as much money as possible, and if you can take as little punishment as possible so that you can enjoy your life after boxing. But in my view, taking a title shot for Chris Eubank Jr. in his case, becoming a world champion by taking a shot against whoever is the champion, I think that will do a lot for his legacy down the line. I think that will do a lot for his legacy historically. That will allow now all the people who say, oh, he's only been an IBO champ, he hasn't run a real world championship, which he hasn't. If he actually takes on one of these guys, even if he calls them unknown or whatever and no one knows them, but historically, at least he can go down in history as someone who's actually won a real world title off of an actual champion, and that will do wonders for his legacy. That will show that he's not just all hype, that there's substance behind his braggadocious sort of nature. And also on the plus side, if he does take on one of the champions, there's no question about it, he will be the A side when it comes to negotiations. He will get more money when it comes to the money, because he will bring the fame to the fight, he will bring the name value to the fight, and I think it will do an enhancement on his reputation. So he won't just have fans like me who just think, yeah, good fighter, exciting fighter, not won a world title, but I still enjoy what he does. But now he will be able to step it up a notch and say, look, I've got a belt, I've won a belt, and he will bring the money to that belt. He will bring the value to that belt, excuse me, and that for me will do great things for his legacy and great things for his reputation. His reputation will be increased and enhanced. Now all the people who still go on today about, oh, you still ain't fought a world champion, you still ain't won one, all those people have to shut up now, because you've actually fought for a world title. You've done it earlier in your career, but this time you've won a world title. So that's just my opinion on it. So why not take the chance? Why not take the shot? Because you take the shot and you win the fight, you enhance your reputation greatly. That's just my opinion on it. Let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. And until next time, it's MKO Pugilism, over and out.